Hey y'all, I just got home from seeing Wicked. Go see it. It's so good. I wanted to see it like last week, but I've been sick. Today was the first day I was like, I think I can go and not cough the whole time. I coughed like 4 or 5 times. Sorry, people in the theater with me. I think it was okay. Um, it was really good. Obvious political parallels to what's going on today. Of course, hard to ignore. Made it a little less fun to watch. But really good. Really good. I watched Wizard of Oz last week when I was sick. Just to get me in the mood. But I felt like going in that I had already seen the movie because I know what happens. I know what happens in part two. I've seen so many TikToks and reels and video essays and things about it. You know what I mean? But there was still some stuff that I didn't know about, and it was just a good time. People clapped at the end. I mean, I went to like a 3 o'clock matinee by myself, right? But there were people in the theater that clapped at the end, even like at that time on like the third weekend it's been open. And it felt appropriate. It felt appropriate. Like I kind of wanted, I didn't clap, but kind of felt like you should. I mean, really good. But yeah, so anyway, and then some dude I've been talking to just asked me if I wanted to get a drink tonight. It's 7:30. He messaged me at like while I was in the movie, but it was like around like 5:30. That's a little late notice for me. So I'm gonna message him back and propose tomorrow maybe. I'm still like a little gross. Like I'm still like a little coughing and a little blowing my nose and stuff too. So I'm not sure I really want to go on a date. And I was gonna do my nails tomorrow because they look terrible. Because I haven't done them since before Thanksgiving and then I got sick, so it was like whatever. But I'm not ready. I'm not prepared, you know. So I want to tell you how all the online dating has been going. I haven't gone on any more dates since the one I already told you about, but I've talked to a lot of people, come to some conclusions. It's nothing that's going to blow your mind if you've online dated before. It's pretty standard, but I'll tell you how that's going. Let me start with how my week has been. So yes, finally saw Wicked. And yes, go see it. Go see it. And also, my dad's second book is almost out. So I really like this cover. My cousin's a graphic designer. He does the covers. This is a proof copy, but Monday it's coming out on Amazon. So I've been working really, really hard on this too to get this out by Christmas. That was the goal, and we met the goal, but it was a lot of editing, a lot of work to get them up online and all of that. So that's kind of what I've been doing. But yeah, last week was before this past week was Thanksgiving. Can you hear Roscoe just like eating his feet in the background? Hey, bud. The ground is frozen now, so he shouldn't have like allergies, but he just is a dog that likes to chew his paws, I guess. He is starting to learn that I don't want him to do that on the bed, but I just feel bad. Like I'm like, should I stop him? Is he just grooming, or is this like too much? Maybe I don't want that background noise. Maybe not right now. The dogs are getting cabin fever because I've been sick. So yeah, last week let's see. I worked in person on Tuesday. I might have gotten sick then, but I wasn't really around a ton of people. But timeline wise, that's what makes the most sense. Wednesday night, I went out for Black Wednesday. So my friend from Bumble, she was coming into town here to my town, for Black Wednesday or Thanksgiving Eve, whatever you want to call it, because Brewery X has they always every year do a like dark beer release. You know, it's Black Wednesday and they release like these really dark, heavy beers, and that's what her and her husband like. So I knew they were going to come into town because they wanted to go there, and I was like, let me know, I'll totally meet up. So I met up with them, and you know, I haven't been to Brewery X in a long time. I went once with Robin and we sat outside, and I only saw like a couple people that I knew that worked there, but it was pretty discreet. And I knew that a lot of people would be there though on the night before Thanksgiving. They're really busy. So I knew I would see some people that I knew from the before times. And I was kind of like ready for it. You know what I mean? Like I've lost 40 pounds. I know I look different now. Like you can tell I'm thinner now. So I was kind of like, yeah, I'll go to Brewery X. You know what I mean? Like I'm feeling pretty good about myself now, I guess. You know, I'm not really at my goal, but you know, I was kind of happy to go see some people that I knew. When I got there, now, if you remember, the craziest coincidence is that this girl I met on Bumble, who's the only one that I met on Bumble who it stuck and we are still friends. But she's cool. And I feel like the more, like, it was kind of awkward at first to find our footing in this like new friends as an adult world. But I feel like now we're like pretty good friends, like, you know, and I like her husband too. He's nice. But if you remember, you probably don't, but it's just a crazy coincidence that her brother-in-law, so her husband's brother, is friends with Ian, my ex, and they live here in town. And so the brother-in-law and his girlfriend even is better friends with Ian. They know him. They're part of this brewery scene here in the town where I live. And when I got to Brewery X, they mentioned that the brother-in-law and girlfriend had been there but just left to go over to Brewery Y, which is this other brewery in town I've mentioned before that I used to also go to with Ian all the time. And the thing about Brewery Y is, like, it kind of sucks. Like, the beer's not good. The people that run it really suck, like, just bad. And it's very cliquey there. It feels like high school at Brewery Y, whatever. I don't like going there, but it's very close to my house. So sometimes I end up there. But anyway, we sat at Brewery X. We had a good time. There was live music, drank some beers. And I did see a few people that I knew. And as we were walking out, there were some people who were like, oh my God, Brian, you know, and my friend was like, oh my gosh, they do know you here. I'm like, I told you, I used to come here every day and I haven't been here in a while. But she proposed. I might have to do the rest of this video with like a cough drop in my mouth. This is why I don't want to go on a date if I talk too much. Okay, we're going to do the rest of this with a cough drop in my mouth. Sorry. It's either that or I'm going to cough through it. So this is probably better. All right. So as we were leaving and finishing up at Brewery X, they wanted to go to Brewery Y. I was like, I'm down. But I knew, I'm like, since Ian's not here, I'm sure he's there with your brother-in-law. And sure enough, as we were walking up, you can look in and you can see the whole place. It's a very small place, Brewery Y. Which also, by the way, always smells like dirty dish rags, which is another reason I don't like going there. But as we were walking up, I'm like, just so you know, he is here, but it's no big deal. And they were like, oh, we won't sit with him or anything. I'm like, well, he is sitting with your brother-in-law, so if you guys want to, like, but like, I'm like, don't worry about me. I don't care. And in a way, again, I was a little bit feeling myself because of the weight loss. Like, I didn't wear a coat on purpose because I want people to know that I lost weight, because I just want everybody to know, like, I'm doing great. And we walk in, and it's like walking into a high school cafeteria. It's so cliquey. I cannot even explain to you how much this adult establishment, where a bunch of 30 and 40 somethings hang out, is just like high school. There's like the cool kids, the cliques, the nice but cool ones, and the mean but cool ones, and then like the not in the club ones and everything. And there's like a few people that go there that have always been nice to me. My neighbor, who lives like kind of across the street from me, she was there. I talked to her for a little bit. We had a little conversation. I'm like, oh, it looks like you're having some work done. She's like, yeah, we're getting a hot tub put in. I'm like, oh, I knew something was going on over there, you know. But we kind of, like, when we walked in, we just sort of like didn't really know where to go, because I knew they wanted to go talk to their brother-in-law, but I wasn't going to go over there straight away. So we found a table, we sat down. I'm like, you guys don't have to sit with me if you want to go talk to them, whatever. But my friend obviously was going to, and her husband was kind of wafting back and forth. And anyway, I was like going to get up and go to the bathroom, which would have required that I walk by my ex and a bunch of other people that are his friends that I used to know. And I was ready for it. And then they left. So I didn't even get to like make my catwalk move, but it's all fine. And then when they left, we were able to like go over and talk to some of the other people. But again, it's so funny because like not only do like the people that go there, some of them are cool, most of them high school. The owners are insane. The place always smells bad. Also, the beer is terrible. And I told them that. I'm like, just brace yourself, because we just went from Brewery X, which has very good beer. Over here, I'm like, just don't expect much. And sure enough, they got like they had like their dark beer specials, and they drank them, and they kind of looked at me and they're like, oh yeah, this is disappointing. I'm like, yeah, you know. But anyway, it was fun. We had a good night, had a good time going out, making the rounds. It made me want to go back. I'm like, I don't want to go back to Brewery Y, but I'm kind of like, I need to get Cassie or Pete or somebody to go back to Brewery X with, because, you know, I've stayed away for quite a long time now, but I kind of miss it in a way. I don't want to start going there every day again and spending all my money there again. Certainly don't want to go back to drinking that much again. But seeing some of the people and them seeming genuinely excited to see me was nice. Anyway, then on Thanksgiving, I haven't gone to my family's Thanksgiving in years. Really, since I stopped eating meat, I stopped going, but also, and not just because of that, but it was one more reason that it wasn't that thrilling for me, and it's really far away, and I don't know. I just kind of had created this ritual for myself where I spent Thanksgiving as like a self-care day, and I would make my own little vegan Thanksgiving, or one year I made a lasagna because that was just what I wanted, and I'm not a big fan of Thanksgiving food, meat or not. But, you know, I usually just, there's no FOMO because like there's nothing open or whatever, and I would just usually like plan something for myself. And that kind of became my own little tradition. But this year I was like, you know what? I'll go. Why not? My sister and her baby daddy that I don't get along with were not going. But I knew some of my cousins that are cool, like my cousin who did this. They were going to be there and stuff. So I was like, sure. You know, so I just rode with my parents down there. We ate, we drank, we socialized, we came back. And man, that night around like 10 p.m., I was like, my throat hurts. Oh no. And that is a really short incubation period if I had gotten sick Wednesday when I was out, which is what would make sense, but that's only 24 hours. So I think it's maybe more likely I got sick when I was working Tuesday, even though I had like 3 people in my office. Really like didn't get close to anybody too much, but before that I hadn't been out in a couple days. So I don't know, but I thought, oh no, I'm going to be patient zero for my family's Thanksgiving. But luckily nobody else got sick. Even my parents who I was in the car with for like a 3-hour round trip, they did not get sick. So that's good. But for me, the way that it always does, it kind of turned into like a bronchitis, sinus infection type of thing. And so here I am a week later, still getting over it. Pretty much better, but it's going to like live in my throat and lungs, I think, for a while. But yeah, I told Robin that I ran into Ian and, you know, didn't talk to him or anything, but saw him, and he goes, did you tell him to forward his fucking mail? I still get his mail. And you know what it is? I don't have ill will towards Ian. Like, I don't hate him. I wish him the best. I hope he's staying healthy. I hope he's growing up. I don't know. But like, every time I get a piece of his mail, I'm reminded about how he hasn't lived with me for a year, but he's never forwarded his mail. And it's just this kind of reminder of how I had to do everything for him, and he wasn't an adult, and he didn't do adult things, and he didn't return things on time, and he didn't pay bills on time, and he didn't renew his license plate on time, and he doesn't fill out a mail forwarding form, and now he's getting collections letters. He hasn't forwarded his mail with the doctor. He's getting things from the doctor at my house. Change your address with the doctor at least. I just, you know, I feel like if he had forwarded his mail, we could be friends at this point. But like, because he hasn't, and I have this constant reminder of how annoyed I am, it's like, I'm sick of, my mail person has to be sick of the fact that I'm constantly putting return to sender on stuff and putting it back in the mailbox. Anyway, so yeah, how is the online dating going? Well, I guess I'll cut you up first on the people that I was mentioning in the last video. So the guy that I went out with, well, let me start here. As some of you know, and I've probably said this before, and if you've online dated, you probably know this, but the vast majority of the dates that you go on, at least this is my experience, and unfortunately, I have too much experience doing this. The majority of the time, it's a good date. It's fine. Sometimes it's a great date and you can't wait to see them again and you date for a while. And sometimes it's a terrible date and they're rude or weird or annoying or pushy or something, and it's just like bad, or you can tell right away that they don't like you, that kind of thing. But the vast majority, it's a pleasant evening and you have pretty good conversation and it's a fine way to spend the evening out. But there's not like a real connection. Maybe go out again, maybe not, but you know, it's fine. And that's why I have always said, since I started doing this, if I'm giving advice to anyone on if they should online date, it's like, don't do it because you're trying to find your soulmate, because then you're going to be very disappointed. Do it if online dating itself sounds fun. If the idea of going out with a stranger and having a beer or a coffee or dinner or whatever on a Thursday night, if that sounds fun, then do it, because that's what it is. And I think that's just exactly what happened with that guy. And I think the reason that the date was so good, and it was a good one to just kind of get started and get back into it, I think it was really a good date because he was really good at conversation. And I'm pretty good at conversation. I was a little rusty, but I'm pretty good. So we had a really good conversation, but we didn't actually have anything in common, if that makes sense. I listed off some of the things I talked about like how he has all these cars and it sounds like they're all just falling apart in his driveway and stuff. There were some other things that I didn't want to like nitpick the guy on the internet, but there were some other maybe pink flags and things like that. But he was very nice. Well, about the time I was making that video, our conversation was starting to wane anyway, and it sort of just fell off, and I never got a chance to ask him about his political leanings, but I do think that Robin and Pete were absolutely correct, because everyone else that I'm talking to on this app is, if politics are not in their profile, they are opening with that. It's coming up within the first 3 or 4 messages because I have it on my profile. And the fact that this guy was avoiding that subject and not, even like responding to me when I brought it up, I think we know why. I never really flat out asked him. I was too chicken to really just ask him, because we only exchanged like one more message after that. And I just let it fade into the ether. The guy that I was talking to with the really bad schedule, I never talked to him again, which, because how was that going to work? Now, the craziest one is that right at the end of that video, I read you guys this perfect message that this guy sent me. It was like a perfect first message. He said, here are 4 reasons that we should talk. And he listed off like 4 different things that he picked out of my profile that we have in common. It was a beautiful, perfect first message. I was really excited to talk to him. I thought at the very least, I'm going to have a great conversation with this guy. He looked insane. I'm going to say more coughing, more telling myself, maybe I should not offer to go on a date with this guy tomorrow. I don't know that my voice is going to be better. But yeah, this guy, he did look insane. Really good message though. So it's like when I say I'm not judging people on looks. If you saw this guy, you would believe me, because he had, first of all, why do all guys have super long beards now? All these dudes have this like the long, like they're in a heavy metal band and it's just half the dudes on there. I don't like it. But I would never tell a guy how to do their hair, because I wouldn't appreciate if a guy told me how to do my hair or what to wear or whatever. But I'm not a fan. But he had the super long beard, and then he was bald on top, but he had grown out his side hair really long, like Krusty the Clown. And I think it came across as like, I'm zany, I have a crazy personality, but a little much. But I was like, this is a great opening message. So I started talking to him, and I was giving him a lot of effort. I was really like asking questions when I was responding to him. And he, after that first message, bad at conversation. This is going to be edited bad because I'm going to like stopping coughing and then just starting again. I had to wonder if like someone else wrote his opening message for him, or AI did or something, because then he just couldn't keep it up. He would answer my question, but not ask me one. And after a few messages, I was just like, why? This guy just doesn't seem like he wants to talk to me that much, but why put so much effort into a first message and then just not keep up with it? And then after like one day went by where we didn't, he wasn't, I don't know what happened. If like I responded to him, but I didn't ask a question back. I think that's maybe what happened. After like 5 or 6 messages where I kept asking him a question and he would answer but not ask me anything, I just answered, or I just like replied or something, and I didn't prompt him to say anything. And the next day he unmatched me. And I was just like, that was a big disappointment. Like, I didn't really have my hopes up or anything. But like, just kind of odd. Can you use AI to write a first message? Can you be like, here's this girl's profile. What's the first message I should write her? You probably can. Anyway, it's just, then it's like, you know, so many conversations. And I'm still just on Facebook dating, and I'm thinking like I'm probably going to have to like switch and go to one of the big boy sites, you know, re-download Hinge or something, because I think I've kind of burned through everybody on this app, to tell you the truth. I haven't talked to that many people. I've maybe talked to like 30, 35 people. A lot of swiping, but it's giving me matches now that are in like Michigan, Iowa, Missouri, like really far away. And I have my, you know, radius much smaller than that, but it's going outside of that. And I think it's because like there's nobody left in my area. The sad thing is, here I have some notes of things I was going to mention. The sad thing is that when I see people on the app, before I even look to see where they're from, I'm pretty good at being able to tell if they're from my city, because if they look like complete trash, if they look dirty, it's like if they're like smoking in their picture or something, or anyway, there's a certain look that I could just tell them like, oh, this person's from here. If they have very bad grammar, this is the problem. It's hard to date in the town that I'm in and find someone local, because there's just a lot of riffraff here. It's hard. It's hard. That's why I always match with people from other cities, but then they're far away. You know what else? I have found that anytime a guy's opening message is just about my looks, if it's something like, hey, gorgeous, or you're hot, or hey, beautiful, what's up? It never turns into a good conversation. It just never does. And I'm trying to figure out why that is. And why is gorgeous the word that everybody uses? I get a message 3 times a day where somebody says gorgeous. Why is everybody saying gorgeous all the time? It's like the synonym of the year or something. But I think it's like, I don't want to say that I don't appreciate the compliment. But when a guy opens with that, I feel like maybe they're just all about looks. Or I think maybe what it feels like more to me is just, well, first of all, it's very cliche. It's very boring. It doesn't show any effort. It doesn't show that you've even read my profile at all. But I think it's more just kind of this sense that they think I'm just going to be, you know, I'm just going to melt. I'm just going to be putty in their hands because they called me gorgeous or whatever. Like, almost like when a guy buys you a drink when you're out and you didn't ask for it and you're like, I don't want this. Like, this is not like, can you talk to me first? Like, I don't even know you. I don't know. But I know that there are girls out there that do like that kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't want to sound like a bitch. Like, I don't like appreciate being told I'm beautiful, but I would prefer it be like after I've met them, you know what I mean? Like after they've seen me in person, after we've gotten to know each other a little bit. And the good conversations that I have with people just don't start that way. I will still talk to someone even if that is their opening line. I'm just saying it's never turned into anything substantial. Also, you know, I think I have, so I'm 42 and I have my age range on there right now is like 38 to 49 maybe. Some of these people, it's so crazy how someone can be the same age as someone else and they look so much different in age. There are people on there that I'm getting matched with that are like 46, 47 and they look youngish. And then there are people that are 46, 47 and they look 60. And I'm like, is your age not correct on here? Like, it seems impossible. Really weird discrepancies. Just, I think, I don't know. Am I at an age where like you can look, some of it is style and how they do their hair. But some of the people that are matching me look like my dad's age, even though it says they're in their 40s. And I'm like, I don't know about this. I don't know. Mostly it's just so many boring conversations. It's just so much like, what's up? How are you? How was your weekend? How was your Thanksgiving? What are you doing this weekend? It's just that. It's just so much of that. And that is really hard to try to turn into something substantial. It just feels like, I don't know, personality-less, I guess. And honestly, I had a bunch of messages waiting for me going into Thanksgiving, and I told myself I was going to look at them and respond to them like when I was in the car going down to Thanksgiving, and then I just didn't feel like it and I didn't do it. And then I started feeling sick Thursday night and I didn't do it. And then Friday, I opened up the phone and I turned matching off so I wouldn't get any new matches, but you can still talk to your existing matches. And I was like, I need to respond to these people, and I just didn't. And then Saturday, I was like, okay, I have to go in and look at these messages. I have to talk back to these people or I'm going to lose them all. And I kind of realized as I was going through Saturday, I'm like, the reason that I didn't want to respond to any of these people and I've been dreading like getting back on here is because these are all boring. I had like 10 or 12 very boring conversations. I had like 12 happy Thanksgivings that I had to respond to. It's not all like that. 1 in 20, maybe, is someone who has something really specific to say. Like that first message that AI wrote probably from that guy. Or the guy who I went out with, his first message to me was about the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight because it was on at the time. So it was like about something going on in the world. I've gotten a couple other messages from people that open with something that's on my profile that they see that we have in common. One guy started talking to me about music. The guy that asked me out for tonight, his opening message to me was, do you want to talk about our shared love of John Lovett? And that was a great opener because John Lovett is a podcaster on Crooked Media. And all I have at the very bottom of my profile, after all the pictures and everything, one of the prompts, I said like, if you're a Crooked Media junkie, hit me up. And he pulled that out and obviously recognized it, listens to Crooked Media, and he just took a chance guessing that I liked that one person on Crooked Media. I have not his name's on my profile or anything, but that was like a great opening message because then right away I can respond and be like, oh my God, I love John Lovett. Which is your favorite podcast on Crooked? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And so those are the really great messages. And those are the ones where I'm talking to them and we get on there talking back and forth and I'm leaving my phone open because I'm waiting for them to write back. Those are the ones where I'm excited for them to write me back. Like I have had a few of those. Maybe it's more than 1 in 20 because I don't think I've talked to like hundreds of people yet. I've probably had maybe 5 or 6 people that I've been talking to like that where it's like, I can't wait to hear back from them. Like it's going really well. Some of them are not really working out though. I gotta tell you about some of these other dudes. So, first, there was this one guy who wrote, what's emo music? Do you listen to like The Cure? And I said, well, I respect for The Cure, but I'm talking more about like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, Paramore, My Chemical Romance, that type of stuff. And he wrote back and he said, I thought Fall Out Boy was rap, and I thought My Chemical Romance was like EDM or something. He's my age. And I wrote back and I was like, I think you're thinking of the Chemical Brothers, but also no, they're not rap. But then the thing that killed me was he said, man, I could really go for a colada. And I said, oh, like a pina colada? And he was like, no, it's this coffee thing and blah, 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 blah. And he had sent me this big paragraph about this fancy coffee drink. And then he was like, you should Google it. And I wanted to be like, you should Google Fall Out Boy. Like, it seemed very snobby. Like, maybe he's like a coffee snob, but he had this air of superiority. He didn't even know who My Chemical Romance is. Anyway, he was one of those guys. I think I talked in my last video about how, I had this conversation with Robin about why don't I like it when a guy's main picture is obviously his work photo. And Robin said it's because that means that's their whole personality. He was one of those guys. Another thing that's killing me, besides all of the like poly people, which are all over the apps now, and so much 420 friendly, California sober, that kind of thing. Which I have nothing against that, but I don't do it, so I don't think I want to date someone who like does it every day, you know what I mean? Just a lot of, people who are in their 40s using language that I would expect to see on the profile of someone in their 20s. Looking for a go-getter who's ambitious and going places in life. I'm kind of like, I'm 42, so I've already gone places in life. I mean, not to say that I'm in the grave or ready for retirement or anything, but I don't know. My favorite is these men in their 40s who their profiles say things like, I'm looking to start a family someday. I literally saw a profile from a guy and it was like, I want to have kids, but not right away. And he was like 44. And I was like, well, dude, I mean, I guess you're a guy, so you can do that, but I mean, I'm not your girl, that's for sure. You probably need to change your age range to a much younger age range if you want to have kids someday. All right, here's one for you. So, I matched with this one guy. He was from the Chicago suburbs, about an hour away from me. And his profile, we seemed like we were a good match. Politics in common. He seemed kind of dorky outside of that, you know, seemed like a gamer dude, into sci-fi, like not stuff I'm really into, but seemed cute enough, whatever. I matched him. And then he matched me back. And then he wrote me and he was like, I don't know if you remember me, but we actually matched a couple years ago. It was 3 years ago. And we actually went out a couple of times. I don't know if you would still want to talk or anything, but I just wanted to let you know. And then I looked closer and I was like, oh, yep, we went out a couple of times at the end of 2021 between Pete and Ian for me. Ah, yeah, I hadn't thought about that guy in a long time. The reason I didn't recognize him is, one, he looks like he's lost a lot of weight. Two, he was from Milwaukee when I went out with him before. He has since moved from Milwaukee to the Chicago suburbs. So I didn't really recognize his face. He wasn't from the same place that I would place that guy in. And so here's the thing. He was one of those dates, just like I was talking about earlier, where like you have a perfectly good time, but there's not like a ton of chemistry, you know, it's just like a pleasant evening. With this guy, I kind of remember, you know, I was leading the conversation mostly. He was a little bit quieter, little reserved. We were having a good time. I'm going to sound kind of stuck up, I think, when I say this, but Pete has told me this. And I think it is true. We all have pros and cons, and I know my pros and I know my cons. My cons with dating me, if according to my mother, is that I'm too opinionated. But in my mind is that I'm a giant. I'm super tall. I struggle with my weight. You know what I mean? I'm definitely not a trad wife. I'm not going to clean up your shit. So, I mean, like, there's that and stuff too, right? But, like, I'm a good date and I am fun. And the number one compliment I get from guys when they go out with me is that I'm fun. It's not that I'm gorgeous or anything like that. But I'm fun. Like, we will probably have a good time if we go out and you don't totally suck and you're not rude or whatever. Because I've gone out with some very, like, shy, reserved people. And we've had fun because, like, I'm in a different city. I want to do stuff, you know. And the guy's just kind of there for the ride. And that sounds kind of mean, but it's sort of just what happened with this guy. Like, I went to Milwaukee to see him. We had a good time because I can make conversation with anyone, and I wanted to hit up this brewery in Milwaukee, and I remember it was like, okay. And then I went out with him again, and the other thing we have in common is he's vegetarian. So I met him at this vegetarian restaurant in Chicago, and same thing, like, we had a decent time, but he's pretty quiet, but we went to a few places. I got him talking a little bit, and he was perfectly nice. But not really any chemistry. He definitely wasn't like flirting back. It was me. I was bringing him out of his shell, but it was kind of like a little bit of work, you know what I mean? And at the end of that night, it was snowing, and I had parked in this Spot Hero parking spot under the L tracks in Chicago. If you Spot Hero in Chicago, they will offer you a parking spot underneath the L train. And they're fine in the summer if you don't mind the fact that like oil might leak on your car or whatever, which has never happened to me, but they warn you about it. The thing is, in the winter, they don't plow that. They don't plow it. So it was this unplowed place where everyone's just, I have a Civic, you know, and I'm just gunning it through the snow. And I got stuck. And on the way out, he had already left and I got stuck. And I had to, like, okay, so what happened first was I was gunning it trying to get out of the parking spot. And then I got unstuck and I hit a pole behind me and I cracked my bumper, and it's still cracked today. And then trying to get out of there, I got stuck and I called him to come back. He had already left to push me out. So embarrassing. And that was the last time that I saw him. But you know, he was a nice guy. Shortly after that, I started dating Ian. But like I said, there wasn't really like a lot of chemistry with this guy. But anyway, it's been 3 years. When we first started talking again, we started having a really good conversation. Not to bring up politics again, but that's what it was about. And I was starting to remember a little bit about him, and I was like, oh yeah. And here's the thing, I remember, one other thing I remember from our first date was that I asked him what kind of music he liked, and he didn't know, and he had no answer. He kind of gave me one of those, oh, you know, a little bit of everything. And then I remember being like, what was your favorite band? And he couldn't come up with a favorite band. He was like, you know, there's just one song I like. And he had to look at his phone to look up who was the band that he liked. And it was Kings of Leon, which I don't know. Is anybody's favorite band Kings of Leon? But anyway, it was just weird because I'm like, that's a really weird thing to just not be into at all. Like, I'm not into movies, but if you asked me my favorite movie, I would still have an answer, Silver Linings Playbook. I could still tell you what kind of movies I like, what genres. I could probably pull out 5 or 6 movies that I like specifically, you know, even though I'm not super into movies. But to just be like, you can't even think of a band that you like for a while. It was interesting. But like, again, we had the vegetarian thing and the political thing in common, but that was about it, I think. But when we started talking again, we started having a pretty good conversation. And then very quickly, so here's the thing. My first response to him was like, oh yeah, I totally remember you. I remember I cracked my bumper when we went out, blah, blah, blah. And I was cool talking to him in the app, just kind of, oh, like, how have you been? You know what I mean? But then, like, he pretty quickly was like, do you want to text? And that made me nervous because I felt like if I said yes and we started texting, it would indicate that I did want to go out with him again. And I had not really decided that because I don't want to lead him on, because I just don't know that we would have chemistry again 3 years later. You know what I mean? I feel like it would probably be the same. But I'm too nice. So I was like, sure, text me tomorrow because I'm not feeling good. I'm going to go to bed. He still did text me that night just to say goodnight or whatever. And then our old conversation from 3 years ago came up. I don't know if it was saved in the cloud, if I never deleted it. I feel like I've deleted my texts at some point in the last 3 years. But the whole conversation came up from before, so I could look back and see what happened, because I couldn't remember exactly when or how we stopped talking. I was like, I don't really ghost people, so I don't think I did that. But I went all the way back to our last date was January 29th. That was the day in Chicago. And then, we talked a little bit after that. I had a good time. I had a good time too, blah, blah, blah. But then all through February, we barely talked. We talked like just a few messages here and there throughout the whole month of February. And then on March 11th, he texted me and asked me if I wanted to do round 3. Now to wit, I don't even know that I knew what that meant, because it took me a minute now. I'm like, what's he talking about? Oh, he must have meant 3rd date. I didn't respond to that. And he never texted me again. So I guess I did ghost him. I really just didn't answer his one question. And I might have not even been sure what he meant. And also I was already in pretty deep with Ian at that point. I met Ian mid-February, and by mid-March we were dating for sure. So it was bad timing, but also how weird to not ask someone on a new date for a month, right? Like, that is kind of odd. So that was how it had ended between us before. And so I was debating what to do. I'm like, do I want to go out with this person again or not? Should I just see or not? But I was really concerned that I was going to be leading him on, because he is like the super nice guy, and I didn't want to lead him on. And I called Robin and I told him the whole situation too. And I was like, what do? I don't want to lead him on. I remember, in 2013, I went out with this guy, and we went out 8 times, I remember, for some reason. And he was really nice, but he had this perfect life where nothing bad had ever happened to him. I remember at the time, he had never been through a breakup. And he said that every girl he'd ever dated, it just kind of faded away. And I remember thinking, how is that possible? And then I met him and I was like, oh, I totally get how this is possible. He was just the most kind of basic ass dude with kind of no personality, but he was nice. And on paper, He's the kind of guy your mom would have loved, right? He had a good job in tech. He had a very fancy car. In 2013, he was mining for Bitcoins. I remember him telling me, I'm like, what is that machine in the corner of your apartment doing? It's mining for this thing called Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. That was back when they were still, all the Bitcoins had not been found. You had to like mine for the code. And anyway, that was before anybody had ever heard of Bitcoin. He was a smart guy, tech job, nice car, nice place, whatever. But I remember trying to like make some kind of deeper connection with him. And I would ask him like, what's your biggest fear? And he would just be like, oh, like probably spiders. Like just basic, like nothing bad had ever happened to this guy. So I just couldn't connect with him with all my heartbreak stories and damage, I guess. Well, we just faded away. And then in about 2017, 2018, some point in there, on one of my breaks where Pete and I were not together, I was back on the apps and I matched with him again. So it was a few years later. And I remember being like, hey, how are you? And we kind of caught up and it seemed like a really good conversation. And he even said something that kind of addressed, like, I had never said to him, like, you have no personality, you're boring or anything like that. But it's almost like he knew it because he was like, yeah, I think I've grown a lot since the last time that we went out. I've been in a major relationship and then it ended, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, well, maybe he's, got a little trauma now. There's something to dig into. I don't know. We went out again and it was so disappointing because it was the same thing. We just had no chemistry. And I could tell that he felt the same way. We were just sitting there like, well, and then we're like talking about the weather and it was like painful. So I kind of feel like based on that experience, things don't really change that much. So what I told Robin is I'm like, I don't want to agree to go on a date with this guy. But I would probably be friends with him. He seems like a cool guy. We have like some of the things in common, some things to talk about. I'd like to have a vegetarian friend to go to vegetarian restaurants with, right? But I don't know if I should even go there because I don't want to lead him on. And Robin was like, you just need to be very clear with him. You just need to say like, hey, I only want to be friends with you. And I always feel like that's mean. I'm like, I don't want to put someone in the friend zone. Like, I don't want them to think it's because they're unattractive to me or something like that. And he's like, you have to be, if you even want to go out with him again, as friends, you have to be very clear. So that was kind of my plan. But then he has been incessantly texting me. I mean, it was overwhelming. It was way too much. It was like, I started to just feel really bad for him. I'm like, this guy is clearly very lonely. He really needs someone to talk to. The sad thing about it is too, it was just nothingness. It was just a couple pictures of his dog and like, how are you? How was your day? Just boring, how was your day? How was your day? How was your day? But like, we weren't even getting into like a good conversation. And so I've decided I cannot even be his friend because I feel like I will be leading him on, but he is just coming on way too strong. We haven't even been out yet. Like, I know that when you're really into somebody, you do text all the time and like you're excited, but this is we are not there. It's very odd to me. So I feel bad. But I was very hesitant about the whole thing anyway and about even talking to him again anyway, but I was just like, okay, let's just have a friendly little chat. And then all of a sudden just coming on very strong. He texted me at 5:30 a.m. one day. And I was like, oh my Lord, I'm still sleeping. Like, whew, okay. Then there was this other guy that I started talking to who, little young for me, little shorter than me. I think his profile lists him at like 5'10". I'm a true 5'11", so for a man, when they say 5'10", that can mean anything. And, he's out there somewhere in Chicagoland, but I knew right away it was dangerous to talk to him because the first line on his profile was, my ex recently passed away and I'm moving on. And you guys know me if you've been listening to my channel from the beginning. I love an emo boy. A sad boy is like, I am just come cry on my shoulder. I did it with Nick. I did it with Jack. I did it with Zach. I mean, I've got this list of dudes that back in the day, like, had just gone through divorces, just gone through like big events, big, life-changing. One guy I dated, his mom was dying of cancer. Anytime there's a sad boy who needs a shoulder to cry on, I'm like, come here. And then they use me as a rebound. And then I always get this little farewell message that's like, you really helped me so much, Bren. You really helped me. But now I'm going to go boink other girls. Like, it just happened to me over and over again. I've told you all how I had that therapist at the time that told me I was like someone who fostered puppies, but with men. I bring them in, I take care of them, I fix them up, and then off they go. And I know that I do that with men because I like a vulnerable guy. You know what I mean? Like, the whole alpha male thing is such a turn off to me. I hate it so much. I am like, give me all the beta males. I want the soft guys. You know, all my celebrity crushes are gay men, which... By the way, Jonathan Bailey in Wicked, I mean, I already had a crush on him, but good Lord. But, I like a sensitive guy. I like a guy who can talk about his feelings, that kind of thing. And so here's this guy whose partner just literally passed away. But he went on to list a bunch of cool stuff about music and all that on his profile. So I did match with him and we started talking. And we started having a really good conversation about music, I think. And I don't know, maybe a couple of other things. Maybe politics came up. And then I finally asked, I'm just like, so, I'm sorry to hear about your partner. Like, what happened? When was that? November 2nd. Y'all, it was a month ago. I was like, oh, dang. Like, this is fresh. And I, again, was telling myself in my head, I'm like, Bren, you should stop right now. This is your kryptonite and it's never turns out well for you. Well, he told me the whole long story. He clearly needed someone to vent to. Again, my cup of tea. And then we talked a little bit about it and then he asked me if I wanted to text. And then I gave him the same line I gave the other guy because it was getting late. I'm like, yeah, but text me tomorrow. So he did. And the next day I asked him, I'm like, so you don't have your alcohol preference on your profile. Do you not drink? And he said, the way he said it, he was like, no, not really, hardly ever, like maybe once in a great while. I think the last time I had a drink was April. He's like, why does that matter to you? Is that important or something? It just kind of felt a little like the why does that matter to you feels a little bit like, again, like an air of superiority. Like, I mean, I'm friends with people who are sober, but there are some sober people that have this little bit of like, and I'm better than people who drink vibe. That's kind of what I was getting from this dude. And, I was like, no, I just asked because I find that most people who don't have it on there, it's because they don't. I was just wondering. And we continued talking. But here's the thing. I don't know if I could date someone who's completely sober, doesn't drink, and here's why. I feel like in general, just me saying that I don't want to or wouldn't makes me feel like I'm an alcoholic. But the reasoning is, it's not like I just want to get messed up and I want someone to get messed up with. It's more like I'm just kind of like into craft beer. I love going to new breweries, hunting down beer, rating it on tap, talking to the brewers. Like I'm just kind of into it. And I'm into craft cocktails and fancy cocktails. And I love going to like a new town and finding like a, fun cocktail bar that has different cool kinds of cocktails and then going home and trying to recreate them. And it's kind of like a hobby. It was one of my favorite things to do with Pete all the time. We would just go to like new cities and new towns and find breweries and find cocktail bars. And it's something that I would like to be able to do and share with the person that I'm dating. I don't want the person I'm dating to just be this designated driver who drives me around while I drink beers and have cocktails. And I'm drinking so much less than I used to, like so much less than I used to when I was with Ian. But I still like want to sometimes, and I still like really enjoy the hunt, for this kind of thing. And I'm just kind of into it. And it's like, I don't need to have everything in common with the person that I'm dating. They don't need to like scented candles or anything like that, But I don't know. That is something that I like to do. And I'm looking for someone to go on adventures with and go on trips with. And I don't know. It's not a total deal breaker, but it's probably like, if I were going to date someone who was sober, that they would have to really align with me and be perfect in a lot of other ways if I wasn't going to have that thing that I could share with them. I don't know. If you think I'm an alcoholic for that, I mean, I guess think it. But I don't. I just think it's a preference, right? And so after that, we continued talking a little bit, but I kind of was thinking in my head, I'm like, I think this is kind of a 3 strikes you're out situation. You know, we've got the like, you're clearly still healing, and seems like maybe you're just looking for fun and casual, and that's fine, but that's not what I'm looking for. And he lives far away, and he's shorter than me, and he doesn't drink. So that conversation, let that one fade away. Not ghosting or not like dropping the conversation, but just kind of like, you know, not putting a lot of effort into it anymore until it just kind of dies on its own. And just as I was thinking, I think I'm done with this app, because it's showing me the same people over and over again now. Like, it's showing me people where I'm like, I know I saw this profile before and I swiped left, but here it is again. And it's showing me people that are really far away. So I'm kind of just like, okay, I think I'm done with the Facebook dating and I need to get on a real dating app like Hinge or something. And that's okay, because I told y'all Facebook was just this little dipping my toe into the water, just this little stepping stone, this little gateway drug to online dating to get me back into it. But I've got a couple more conversations going on right now. They both have the same name, which isn't helpful. One of them I don't know about, but the other one is the guy who asked me if I wanted to hang out tonight, and I still need to respond to him, but like, I wasn't going to hang out with him tonight. And again, with my voice now, I don't know if tomorrow would be good either. We just matched because, so he's shorter than me, and I am finding that on Facebook dating, there's also a friendship section where you can swipe and match with someone as a friend. And when I ran out of people on I didn't fully run out, but like I was seeing redundant and far away matches on the dating tab, I was like, well, I wonder what's going on this friendship tab. And I'm like, oh, this is where Facebook has put all the short guys. Basically, that's what's on there for me. But I matched with this one guy as friends. He lives about an hour away. He seems cool. Like I said, he's the one who opened with the let's talk about our shared love of John Lovett. And we've been chatting a little bit for a couple of days on and off. It doesn't seem like we're ever on the app at the same time, but good conversation. And I will go out with him. He, though, is getting out. Let's see. He's getting divorced from an 18-year relationship. He has 2 teenage kids, 18-year relationship. And I'm like, when? And he's like, she cheated on me in May. So this is fresh. Again, fresh. And it's like, I know that that's what you should expect on the dating websites, that a lot of people are not doing what I just did, where, you know, Ian broke up with, Ian moved out a year ago, and we continued talking into like April or May, and then that's when we finally stopped talking, and I spent the entire summer alone and working on myself before I got back on the apps. I realize most people don't do that, especially not men. Men go through a breakup, and the next day they're on the apps. And I guess you have to catch, if they're a good guy, that's when you have to catch them, because good guys aren't single for very long, I guess, right? If they're a truly good guy, they're in demand. But after being the rebound girl for so many men back in the day, and then seeing that they would always get into a lasting relationship with the next girl that they dated, like I good luck chucked a lot of people, I came up with the theory that you don't want to be the first girl that a guy dates after his divorce. You want to be the second. The first girl a guy dates after his divorce is the throwaway rebound. The second is the first one to scoop him up now that he's really back on the market. So I don't know, but I doubt there's been a girl in between. She cheated on me in May, so when did you actually break up and get divorced and she moved out and all of that, and now you're on the apps? I don't want to be the first one. But since we did just match as friends, and he's shorter than me, maybe we would just go as friends. And he didn't say, like, would you like to go on a date to dinner or anything? He just said, like, would you want to grab a drink tonight? So, you know, maybe I'll just treat this cash. And I like to meet up with people as friends more anyway, but I'm going to have to figure out when, because then this week it's like Trivia Tuesday. I'm going to dinner with Cassie on Wednesday. So but I feel like if I push it to after that, will he still be interested? I don't know. You know what I mean? So I think that's pretty much everything. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I skipped candle date this year completely. There was nothing that interested me at all. It was all, this is the first candle day I've skipped at Bath and Body Works in 10 years. Nothing seemed new. I know there were like some technically new stuff, but it was like sugar cookie. Like they haven't put out 50 other sugar cookie type fragrances in the past few years. Just nothing exciting at all. So that's kind of crazy. I never skip candle day, but very boring this year. Okay, with that, I shall go. I'll talk to you later. Bye. This guy says, bars are not my thing. Yes, I have baby mama drama. I don't care if you're not perfect. He spelled your wrong. I'm not here for one night stands. They have those at Walmart. I am a believer in the truest form, both in Christ and women that can post photos without 12 other females or any number of male friends in places that also don't occupy toilets. I'm not the biggest fan of dating apps, but I do have a big ding dong. I'm looking for someone who is a bit damaged, has lots of daddy issues, and kind of freaky. If you're any of those, hit me up. Same guy. A social cause I care a lot about is women's orgasms. I'm secretly good at... Nope, I can't read that one. This guy says, let's be honest, we're all on here to have sex. Some of us are here for a regular partner, and others don't mind condoms or the pull-out method. Anyway, if you read this far and are still intrigued, hit me up. Seeking adventure in the Midwest, one route at a time. I'm bigger than normal guys, but I had gastric bypass and lost 600 pounds. Wow. I'm going to be honest. I will date anyone female. Make his eggplant hard, not his life, and he'll make your cat emoji